everybody. My name is Grandmaster Deirdre White Cole. Thank you for joining me today on another episode of DYC the Woman and the Warrior podcast show. And today I have with me my honored guest and my dear friend, my brother, Grandmaster Myloreal Anderson.
I appreciate you having me.
Man, thank you so much for doing this.
I told you I was going to come
back.
You did. I told you I was going to come back.
Yes, you did. We've been trying to do this for a minute, but we knocked it on out, y'all. So
absolutely.
Say hello to my guest, you guys. You probably remember him from the other episode, right? How could you forget this guy right here? But today we're gonna switch channels. We're gonna talk about how we got connected initially. We're gonna talk about the martial arts background, because he is, like I said, a grandmaster martial artist. He is very gifted in his craft, and we want to talk about that today. I want you to tell the people that don't know a little bit about yourself. Like, how did you first get started? What was your motivation? How did you get started in martial arts? I know you've been doing it for a long time.
Yeah, so I got started in martial arts back in 1990. I actually started at the Y with a guy named Terry Hoskins. He taught Kyokushin at that time.
Okay.
But kind of what kind of stemmed like that, or like lit the light, was actually Ninja Turtles and watching Michelangelo. At that time, you know, going to Blockbuster, for those that don't remember that, you know, you could actually rent cassettes and and go actually watch the movies like on a Friday.
Turn them back in 3 days, or you're gonna pay that fee.
And make sure you rewind it, because if you didn't, that was a fee. I remember that, but and just truly just watching that whole, to Master Splinter, to all four of the Turtles, but I really zoned in on Michelangelo. He was the youngster, he was the silly one, he was all eating pizza. And I guess somehow mixed with that, and my mom always talks about how when I was younger, she always used to sit me on her lap and we would watch martial art movies all the time.
Really?
I don't know for the life of me, what is the black woman in that time that she used to watch, but the late 80s, but she was, please forgive,
Jones.
I can't remember, but anywho.
Christy Love, maybe?
You know what, because I'm on a live podcast, I'm not about to get a chance to lie, because I was going to be like, you know, that wasn't it. But anywho, sat on her lap, watched martial art movies, it planted a seed, Ninja Turtles, planting a seed, started with the Y, going there, training, and that kind of just got me started. And that particular time, I remember when I grew out of the program and I switched schools, it was a little bit distant to travel there, because if I'm not mistaken, at that time, they would come and pick you up from your daycare and then take you to the Y at that particular time. And then from then, I used to take classes with a guy. We just called him Sensei at the time, but it was at Royal Oaks Park in DeWarty, and I took his classes for a long time. And then from then,
this is in California.
Yes,
before you,
yes, from California, and then I just moved from DeWarty out to Pasadena, and I just kept my training in different instructors. I got into boxing, kickboxing, Kempo, because Kempo at that time was very heavy out in that area. I know if I'm not mistaken, Sijo had a school out in Pasadena, and I just kept training and training and training and training. I just never stopped. In different parts at different times, I would move, of course. So, and at that time, it wasn't like I was driving. So if I moved and my mother moved us any locations, I had to find another school. But the main disciplines I really got heavy in was that deep Japanese, low, strong base of martial arts. And then it kind of just stemmed from there, to be honest with you.
Okay, so we have another connection too, because I started at a YMCA years ago. And then Sijo, he did Kempo too, and I did Kempo, so we had that connection too. That was the thing back then, you know. And so you did some BJJ, you do too, right?
Yes, I do some BJJ. I'm currently under.
This is the Renaissance karate guy. I mean, a little bit, and he's good at all of them too. I've seen him in action.
I'm a master student. Like, you can never. Something with martial arts is, no matter how good you think you are, you can always learn something, because it always goes back to those fundamentals. I have a saying: fear the person that has practiced one thing 1,000 times, not the person that has practiced 1,000 things one time. A lot of times, everyone, they want to do a lot of things, but if you stick to something and you get really good in that, and with the fundamentals of martial arts, it's just math and science. And when you make it to that point, beyond it just being moves and things, and it becomes a math and a science base, you're really onto something when you're able to talk about 206 bones in the body as an adult, and you're able to break down all the organs and really talk about all the mathematical principles of martial arts, and not just, oh, that's a round kick, well, that's a jab cross, and let's talk about the angles. Let's really break it into a science, and that's what martial arts has done to me thus far.
Okay.
You know,
And let me ask you, did you do any like tournament competitions or anything like that?
I did some tournaments coming up. They were very different. Like, I look at some of the tournaments now, and I'm not knocking them. I'm not trying to be that guy that's like, oh, you know, but at that particular time, schools would fight other schools, first of all, you know, and I remember when Macho Gear came out, and when Century first, and even just, I think we used to call them chops, if I'm not mistaken, and all you really had was a mouthpiece at that time. And then, and I'm not bragging on that in a sense of, I wish it would go back to that, because you and I both were kind of in that era where we saw a lot of people get knocked out. We saw a lot of seizures. We saw a lot little really injure themselves. So
they say semi-contact, but sometimes that contact,
sometimes you got a little,
especially when you get above the brown belt, black belt level, you can make a little more contact or whatever.
So
it wasn't watered down, you know, then it was, you know, really.
And so personally, I appreciate where gear has gotten to, because I do think it allows the sport to be safer. But I think a lot of people kind of go too much into that, because we're getting to a place where martial arts just becomes more of a financial school instead of where you're actually learning to fight. At the end of the day, martial arts, you're going to fight. It comes with discipline, it comes with that, but you're fighting. You're going to make contact. And with a lot of schools, they invite me to be a guest to, and nobody, even the black belt levels, or nobody's punching in the head
or making real contact
with a helmet and a mouthpiece on. It's like, at what point do you draw the line? Because you're only as good as the last time that you practice. And a lot of students nowadays, when they get in a fight, if they're sparring in their school and they're not even hitting in the head, most street fights, they're conditioned to just punch you in the mouth. And if you've been training for 3-4 years, and the first time you get punched in the mouth after all them years of training on the streets, you're going to end up with a problem. Let's just call it what.
And that's why, you know,
spade.
That's true. And then, so that's why it was kind of refreshing. Remember, maybe about, I don't know, was it 3 years ago now, maybe, when I think it was maybe 2019 at Sijo Steve Muhammad's Fight Like a God tournament. I reached out to you. I was the arbitrator of that tournament, and I reached out to my brother. And I had you come, and you came, and you were the center referee, and it was good to see. I mean, you kind of went back old school a little bit. So you know what I mean? It was you know, it was some tapping going on there.
I got a little bit of grief because of that, because I kind of played out a different rules. But you know, but they were all black belts at that time. It wasn't like I was a center ref of anyone that was a color belt, 6-7 years old. They were all adults.
But the whole idea was for them to be able to kind of like test, you know, their skill levels. So you can kind of test with somebody who's just as good and had, you know, and so, and you know, when you're like kind of like not doing that and you're like barely touching or whatever, you don't really get a chance, like you said, so you get hit for real and you don't know what to do.
And I understand the control aspect. I don't want someone to think, oh, he's just not. Look, you don't have to be knocked out every match to learn how to fight. But when someone punches you in the mouth, I think my Thai said it best. Everyone got a plan until you get punched in the mouth, and then you really realize what you're gonna do. And that's just what it comes down to. Because I grew up in, I don't want to say real martial arts, but it was the old school martial arts that I came up with. It was a little bit more tougher at the time than what we currently see. Doesn't make it bad. I'm not trying to draw a line and divide us.
Exactly
but
what you're saying.
there is a difference between now and but there's a lot of instructors that I study under, like Sijo and Grandmaster Marlon Sims, and a lot of the world-renowned people that still kind of, you know, we make some contact. So, but I don't want to get it. I don't want to get it.
Shout out to you, Sijo, if you're watching. I know you're watching. We love you. That's our teacher.
Yes, absolutely, Sijo.
Yes,
love
indeed.
You,
and so now, let's talk about how martial arts and character, how they go hand in hand. And I noticed on your patch.
Yes.
I would love for you to, if you could, for the audience.
Yes. So they can see it on camera, I believe. So all these patches actually mean something. So what she's referring to is what we call our back patch, and we have 24 written laws that are on our patch, and then we have 12 unwritten laws. And the written laws basically tells a story, and what it starts off with is dangerous being at 12 o'clock. The very first thing that I believe that people need to understand is not knowing how dangerous martial arts can be, and also how dangerous that you can become is one of the very first things outside of that. But to be But to learn how to be dangerous, you have to be honest with yourself, right? You have to be honest. But to be honest with yourself and dangerous, you must be selfless. Because it takes a selfish person to really talk about difficult things and be honest with thyself. But if you can be selfish and honesty and dangerous, then that is true strength. But if you have developed those 4 qualities, then then you're ready to become a leader. And if you're ready to become a leader, then that comes with respect and heroic courage. But if you have heroic courage and you have respect and you are a leader and you have strength, selflessness, honesty, and dangerous, then that embodies then that next level of being self-control. And then if you reach that point, then you definitely have to be humble, guiding your spirituality, but you have to stay sincere in everything that you do. You must be courteous and passionate at all times. Must have honor, responsibility, and compassion for everyone. If you understand those, then you can then have a duty. Then you can actually have a duty in what you're going to be able to do. And then you must be confident, loyal. Your health is important. You must be wise. Character, give a sense of justice, and then you can have a family at the end of that journey. And as you go into different levels of that, that's basically what those laws represents in such a small snippet of it. But before we get into that, then you see Mikio, Surai, Martial Arts International.
And that's your system that you created, right?
Correct.
Mikio, Surai. Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
And what the me means, it means self. The very first thing that I think that you should learn in martial arts is to master yourself. Because if you don't know who you are, your identity becomes what the world will say, well, you are whoever you hang around or what they think that you are. But you have to know yourself. And if you can know yourself, then it goes into Mikio, Surai. Mikio, which means 3 trees. And then Surai, basically the modern samurai. Martial, governed by the laws in which we have the arts, in which you incorporate yourself through, and then we bring it internationally to the world. And it's just, it's just been such an honor, and to create my own system. We were founded February 10th, 2010 at 10:10 p.m.
At 10 p.m. Okay.
That's when I put the last period on my manual. And
that's awesome.
And
well, you've done a great job, because I know you have several black belts under you, male and female.
Yes.
So you're raising warriors and you're teaching them the principles. And the thing about martial arts, I tell people all the time, it's a gift that really keeps on giving.
Yes, it is.
So I say to you, especially to you ladies out here, well, fellas too, it's just martial arts is, when you invest in that for your children or for yourself, that's an investment that will never, it'll never leave you bankrupt, because you're going to always, like you said, you're going to always learn something. You start off with, because we're always evolving. So you're like, okay, well, when you step in the door where you may be, you're like, okay, well, let me do this evaluation of self.
Yes.
But that never stops, because we're always growing. And like we talked about earlier, you can learn from anybody, right? We can learn from a child, we can learn from anybody, but you have to be humble enough to allow yourself to receive that. So, and I know that you embody that, and I think that's a great trait that you have. So kudos to you.
I just want to point out on this podcast that it is a little weird seeing my picture up there. It was a set design idea. I went with it, but
I think it looks great.
It's very weird seeing that. That's very weird to me, but I want to point that out, because someone's gonna be able to.
Soke Myloreal Anderson. I think that's
why he on the wall too? It's just, I went with it. I just showed up on set, but it's an honor to be here.
Now, though, right?
Yeah. So in my system, we go up to 7 days. And in Sijo's system, I went up to 8 days. So 7th is the highest in my system. And what's crazy is I just became that last year. A lot of people, when I first wrote this in 2010, I kept my current rank that I was in. I was only a sensei then. And it took me 12 more years to get to where I am. And a lot of times, a lot of people are like, well, why did you do that? Because, of course, when you write a system, I guess you can call yourself the grandmaster of that system. But in my perspective, I'm not a self-promoting individual, and that was not my current rank. So I went through my own system to rank up, because how do you become a grandparent, a grandparent or anything? Your kids got to have kids, but first you got to have students. So I went through the same rules with my whole system. So as I made instructors and I checked off all the things I had to check off to get to my next rank, other than time, is when I got my promoting each rank. And all my instructors actually gave me permission to have my own system, and they signed a charter because I wanted to do it the right way. I didn't just want to come up with some fluff idea. I wanted to do as as right as possible,
Mm-hmm.
and not just make, because anyone can make up a martial arts system,
Mm-hmm.
but to actually be recognized among the masses.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, I didn't want to be that individual that's, well, I made the system, I'm grandmaster. Well,
Mm-hmm.
who made you a grandmaster?
Mm-hmm.
My rank at the time was just a sensei.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the rank that I wore when I wrote it, until I earned my way all the way up. And I'm
okay.
proud to
That's
say
great.
that.
Okay.
Yes, a lot of my black belts saw me become master.
Okay.
And then I went up my ranks every single time.
Okay.
Because in my system, there are times when you can only get so high. Like if you've never met a black belt, you can't get past a sensei.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That means you cannot get past a third dan.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to make a black belt. So it took me some time to get a black belt that I
Okay.
can find worthy enough to cross that line. And
Okay.
then I got that next
Okay.
rank, and then et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
That's awesome, and
Yeah.
I know that I've met quite a few of your students, and I noticed that you all have like a family vibe.
Yes.
You guys travel together and do
Yes.
things together.
It is a black belt club. It is
Okay.
a real thing.
And I know you all do a lot
Yes.
of community service
Yes,
and
we
stuff
do.
like that too,
Always.
right? So
Yeah.
what is it about that? I mean, why is it important for you to exemplify that and to teach that to your students about, community?
Well, let's just be honest. Being a grandmaster, or it's not, you don't become a grandmaster based on the fact that you just took a lot of names and you got a bunch of trophies and all you did was whoop some tail.
Mm-hmm.
That's really not what that's about. I think when you're that first degree, that second degree, even that sensei, you're more,
Mm-hmm.
but over time you learn to digress some of that, and your power and your focus transfers into different things. It's kind of like, I laugh now. I have two beautiful daughters. I laugh now with my mom because I remember my mom being just whoa, whoa, whoa. That one right there, it doesn't matter how many karate chops I learned. But now, her being a grandparent, I'm like, there's no way that I would be able to do half those things.
Yeah.
But it's because as you mature and you get older, your focus changes. And for myself, that's exactly what I did. Because as you get higher in different rank, you actually practice more on your own. Because as you open up your school, you're teaching, you're on the floor, you're the one doing that. So it's, when do you train? So a part of that, it's that selfless part, because you have to care more about them than you do yourself. So a part of being as a black belt, every single rank, they have to do a certain amount of community service and teaching to maintain their ranks. If they do not give back, they cannot be promoted. Now, it's not like they have to do it monthly. It's only a certain amount of hours every single year, and it goes higher and higher.
But that's part of your curriculum.
That's a part of my curriculum.
Okay. That's awesome.
Because that's what you need to do. I don't make black belts. I'm trying to make masters and grandmasters and teachers. I don't want to just make a black belt. A black belt is just a white belt that didn't quit. But to get to that next point, you have to install and build some of those fundamental principles.
A servant leader, right?
You have to.
You're serving and you're leading
because
at the same time.
Yes, to be a martial arts in this day and age, to really teach what you and I teach, that's not money-driven focus, meaning when you come in the door, look, we have a black belt program, we know you're going to be a black belt in 2 years. How can you ever say that when everybody has their own fingerprint and they're all different? You're on your own path, so I can't make a program like that. We judge you for who you are, where you are, and we take you from that, and however long that it takes is however long that it takes. But you must cross and dot every I and cross every T. You must meet the standard, and nobody is above a standard, even myself. To get to that rank, I'm not above my own standard, and I mean that. And everyone needs to embody that and understand that. I don't want to be a leader that's just pointing. I want to get down and be able to do just like you have to teach. I have to teach. Just how you have to do X amount of community service, I too have to do X community service. No one's above the standard, not even the person that wrote it. And that's just what I do in this system. But there you have it.
That's awesome, and it's what we need, especially what our children need. We don't need the the watered down version. I mean, because we need the discipline. We need to still be doing push-ups when you met. We need that because it's lacking. Discipline is lacking, and to have strong Black leaders, African American male and female leaders, I think is an important thing. So thank you for the work that you do. And can we just talk a little bit about I know you're, in law enforcement and that you mentor and all that. And you just kind of tie everything that you do, you tie it right together.
In my opinion, I have tried to. So I teach my students to love what you need and not always what you want, right? I think I had to learn to love what I need. And what I basically have learned to do is that I'm just a teacher at heart. And so I just want to teach different disciplines. So if you're talking about self-defense, it's not just a firearm, it's not just martial arts. Your mind is your best weapon anyway, because everything starts there. So a part of teaching is I just wanted to teach the full spectrum of when you talk about self-defense, or when you're talking about defending yourself in any type of situation. And starting with you, so when I'm teaching firearms, that has one path. You know, you can't always mix everything together, but I believe that as an instructor, that's the main difference between, to me, an instructor and a teacher. When it comes to an instructor, you are a specialist in that particular lane or that subject in that moment that you are a part of. But a teacher can mold, can mentor, can help. They can take anything and get you to truly understand it. And I use examples like if you have a student and you know that they're having a tough time catching on to what you're catching on to or what you're trying to teach. But you can see that this young mind, maybe they like red. I'm going to take red as an example, but you're trying to teach safety. You as an instructor should be able to, because your imagination is your limitation to martial arts or to life. If you cannot imagine, if you cannot see it, you're never going to get there. Like everybody that has done anything, the light bulb, the car, whatever, think about how many times they failed. They failed and they did not stop. But you have to, so once you have that vision, you have to do that. So what I try to do, going back to the red thing, is I think about red stop sign, red fire truck, anything that gets them to make paths and to correlate what you're trying to talk to. So for myself, I try to make sure that I cross all that together and I mush it all, but it's about them, it's not about me. Because as an instructor, if I don't know, my response should be, I don't know, but I'm going to find out. Because I don't know everything. But based on what we do to be a true martial artist, in my opinion, it's not just back when I first started, everyone would just fight. And it would be a fight, y'all hug it out. Half the people I fought as a child, I feel like we're best friends now. It's the craziest thing. I don't know if it is in the female world or the black queen world, but I know for a man, half the people that we be in argue with, and we be this, we hate, and all of a sudden we best friends the next day playing basketball
and
together.
That's how it should be.
But it
children
changes.
do that. They don't,
It
changes, you know. It should be like that though. I mean, because, you know, there's room enough for, for us to all be great. There's never been like any kind of like, you talked about the whole female thing. I don't know what it is, but I do believe that I think that we should encourage each other.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And we should lift each other up, and we should, cheer for one another, because it's enough room for us to all be great. And you know what I mean? And you don't gotta dim my light in order for you to shine, and vice versa. You know what I mean?
We can both shine,
anyway, I am just so glad that you allowed me this opportunity to talk to you and for the people to get to know more about you, because I brag about you all the time, and I want them to get a chance to see you and learn about more about your history and your background. And also, can you let everybody know how they can contact you if they want to train with you, and where you're located and that kind of thing? So
I'm in Georgia. You guys can go to my website. It's www.mikiosurai.com, MIKIOSURAI.com. You guys could go there, check out what do we do, and get an in-depth dive on the actual system. You guys know to contact us. It'll have all of our phone numbers, emails, there's multiple ways. We're in 2023. We're in the technology age, so y'all want to find me, y'all can find me. I'm also on IG. It's the same thing, Mikio Surai. There's no hashtags in between or nothing like that. It's just Mikio Surai. I'll come right up. I am willing and just decided to teach anybody out there. The only thing that I ask is to come with an open mind, because we are a traditional system mixed with the new age. So we're not just old school, hit them, rough them up. We're a hybrid course, because we have to understand that things have evolved. Hence why I teach the martial arts and the firearm and all that stuff kind of mixed together, because most people nowadays can Google something. Everyone wants to take someone on the ground, and you have to have a well-rounded program, because you don't want to bring some hands to a gunfight. I'm not saying that's...
You want to be able to escalate when it's time. You want to be able to stop the threat, whatever that threat is, right?
But escalate or de-escalate,
whichever one
is
it
the
calls
key.
for,
Yes,
right?
you want to just be prepared. And nowadays, I know, like in the state of Georgia, too many people have a firearm. And for us martial artists out there that grew up in a time where you could just handle your business in the yard
Mhm.
and dust yourself off and move on.
Yeah.
When you embarrass someone or
You're
fight
right.
with someone, now it
Those bullets
becomes
are gonna land
life and death.
somewhere, yeah.
Now it becomes life and death. And how do you handle?
You're right.
How do you mitigate those issues? But
You're
anyway,
right. You're
that's
right.
how you guys reach me. It's been an honor to be on your podcast. You are an amazing spirit, amazing woman, amazing
you.
Black woman.
Thank you,
I've known you for many years, and it's just been a pleasure. I just appreciate you all having me back. I'll come back anytime.
Thank you so
I don't
much.
have many more hats to wear, so
Don't
but
believe that, y'all. He got some more hats he's wearing.
But I
But
appreciate
stay
you
tuned
so
for
much.
some more episodes. I'll be bringing
Yes.
him and some of his students on, and we'll get to know them more. And let me just say this: so you're girl dad now, right? So those girls are gonna be
Yes.
well trained, I'm sure, right?
Yeah,
I know they listen.
My oldest does shoot now.
When I first met you, you didn't even
yes,
have any children.
yes.
Wow.
It's being a girl dad, I can tell you, has humbled you. And what you try to do is I always try to be the man that I hope and pray they meet. So if I become a standard and I treat them in such a way that they know that that's the standard, then they know, well, I know my dad would do it, so my dad don't talk to me like that.
That's major.
So why would they ever accept that? Because now I don't know what it's like to be a woman. I've never been a woman. Don't want to be a woman. I have no desire to do anything like that. But I can only imagine growing up with women, having a mother, having aunties, having cousins. The things that you guys tell me, that part is very important to be present and to be there. Just to be there, but to give an example. So I hope to exude exactly what I want them to have.
That's awesome.
And to them, I love my daughter. Said I love you so much. You guys are two beautiful girls. I know this is not about them.
That's
but
okay. Make it about them.
They're gonna
Make
look
it
at
about
this
them.
years from now and know, yes, your daddy loves
Daddy
you, and I'm
loves
saying
you.
it publicly. You guys are two beautiful, wonderful daughters. And I'm so proud to be your father, and I hope that I bring you guys honor. And I'm so thankful to be here with you. I'm just honored to be here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Absolutely.
Okay.
All right. Appreciate you.
That was good.